everybody. Welcome to my channel. My name is Shirley Stewart, and this is Sew To We Begin Embroidery. Today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the embroidery notions that I use and I feel that are important in embroidering and being successful. Some of the things that I speak about will be essential, and some of the things are just something good to have. If this is your first time stopping by to visit my channel, please subscribe, hit the notification bell so you will be reminded when I upload a new video, hit the like button, and don't forget to share. And thank you for stopping by. So let me get started with scissors. On my previous video that I had that talked about some of the things, or the 12 things that you needed to be successful in embroidery, I mentioned scissors. So I have an array of scissors. And again, I always try to caution you, do not become intimidated or fearful thinking, oh my goodness, I got to spend all this money and get all these things, because you don't. You don't have to have everything at one time. I have accumulated all of the things that I have now over the year, and I'm one of these, I guess, compulsive shopper type person. As I mentioned before, when I look at a YouTube video and they say this is good, try this, or you need this, then I pretty much ran out and got it. However, now I do understand that no, you don't have to get everything. Some things are really good to have, some things are nice to have, and some things you have to have. So let me start off with scissors. Now, if you have sewn or you sew, you know you need a really good pair of fabric scissors, and that's what I have here. These scissors I got off of Amazon. I like them a lot, and the brand name is not on here, but it's a very popular scissor that is good for cutting fabric. The one thing that I do want to point out about your fabric scissors, do not use it for anything else but fabric. Don't let anybody else use it for anything but fabric. Do not open boxes with it or cut anything that is hard. You're going to dull your scissors, and a good pair of fabric scissors aren't cheap. These cost me around $40, so they're not inexpensive, but they cut really well, and I protect them. No one uses my scissors. I did get another pair, Fiskars, and I got these because I liked the way that it could slide underneath your fabric when you're cutting, because I cut multiple layers at a time, especially when I'm making my mask. So I thought this would be a good pair of scissors to get. Again, these were not that cheap. I got them out of Joann. I used them, but probably not as much as my good old standby scissors. But again, these were nice to have, and I like that they're ergonomic and that it glides through. It actually can cut your stabilizers and some of your fabric, if they're not too thick, just glide through like butter. So these are a good pair of scissors to have. The other thing that I do recommend, if you don't already have one, get you one of these cutting wheels, I guess is the best name that I can come up with right now. The blade is, you can change the blade out, and you will need to change your blades frequently if you use this a lot to cut your fabrics and things out. And I made masks just about all the time. I'm not making as many now, so I'm not cutting fabric that often, but when I first started embroidery, that's how I got started. Making masks, I was cutting out fabric every day. And so I decided to get a cutting wheel versus the handheld because it goes quicker, and it does. But what I also realized is that the blades dull quick as well. So I get a subscribe. I subscribe to blades through Amazon. So I think I get about 5 new blades every other month, just to make sure that I stay with my supply, so my wheel blade is always sharp. So that's just a good idea, but I do recommend that you do get one of these, a cutting wheel, and at least a very good pair of fabric scissors. The other thing that you must have are scissors for appliques. If you're going to do any appliquing at all, you need a good pair of scissors. Now these were recommended, and I went out and got them. I saw it on a YouTube channel that I watch frequently, and she mentioned that this is her favorite pair of scissors, so I went out and got them, and I do like them, but I'm not going to say they're my favorite. I do use them, but they're not necessarily my favorite. What does work very well and is important, I think, when I first started, it was recommended from a YouTube channel that I get what they call curve applique scissors, and one is the regular curve. These are double curve, and what the purpose of these are, when you're doing an applique, oftentimes you may not want to take your hoop completely off of your machine. If you have a single needle machine, you probably will have to. I've never done an applique with my single needle machine, so I can't really speak to how that really works. I have done them with my multi-needle machine, but what I do know, you need to be able to get in there and do the trimming. And if you have a good pair of curved applique scissors, you can get in really good. And in very tight spaces, you can get in even better with your double curve. So I do use these. Now these two are called duckbill applique scissors, and these work really well when you're trimming the fabric around the stitching on your applique, and the duckbill helps you not cut the stitching, because you don't want to cut the stitching, you just want to cut the fabric away from the stitching, and you're trying to cut it as close as possible without actually cutting the fabric. Now I got these first, and I discovered that they do have left-handed duckbills, which I am left-handed obviously, so I did get these. I have to tell you, I'm a little disappointed because I haven't had these scissors as long as any of the other scissors that I have, and for some reason this particular pair doesn't cut anymore, and I guess I need to get them sharpened or whatever. So if anybody that's on the video watching knows anything about how to get them sharpened, or if you can, I guess I can get a blade sharpener, scissor sharpener, or something, but I was very disappointed because they're not cutting. And I got them specifically because they're left-handed and they work well when they work, but they're not working. So I'm disappointed about that. But the whole point is to let you know that you're going to have fabric, need to have fabric scissors, you need to have a cutting wheel, and you definitely need to have applique scissors. The other thing that you need to have that is definitely a must are a good pair of snippers. Now I have several pairs. They're not that expensive, and sometimes when you order your stabilizers, at least that has happened with me, certain brands will actually give you a pair, which is what happened with this one, and I love this one. It's really sharp, and it comes in a case, so I really like this, and I don't remember what company gave me this, but I got this as well as a pencil, marking pencil, and you need to have marking pencils. So I got these two together. So now I have a couple of marking pencils, and these are very important. You do need to have these. This is essential. So when you are hooping your garment, your blank, you need to do the measurements, and this helps you to make the marks where the cross is going to go. And So you measure so far from the top and you measure from the side to make sure that you have it centered correctly, and then you mark it with a pen that is specifically made for marking on fabric because it will disappear. It's called disappearing ink. Some of them disappear with heat, some of them may disappear with water or liquid. So I would suggest you get at least one of each, depending, because you'll use it however it is necessary depending upon the fabric that you have. But you do need to have the disappearing ink, or you can use Taylor's chalk. The only drawback to that, what I have found, is that if you manipulate your fabric a lot, you can really lose that chalk line. It doesn't stay, whereas the disappearing ink is not going to disappear until you've actually either put the water on it to make it disappear, or you have put heat on it to make it disappear. So you're going to see your hash marks as long as you need to have them. And again, those are very necessary because you need to do your measuring. And speaking of measuring, what I've done and what I recommend is that you get several different types of rulers. This I use a lot, and I use them when I do sublimation, which is totally different from embroidery, but I do sublimation as well, so I'm measuring my t-shirts and what have you that I'm doing. Of course, you need a 12-inch ruler. I think that is absolutely necessary, and if you have a pegboard, it's pretty nice if you get one that has a hole in it so you can hang them up. This ruler also has a hole in it, and I can hang it up. And this little thing, I saw someone on YouTube that had a little knob or a little handle on her ruler, and it looked really neat to be able to just hold it like that without having to actually hold the ruler itself when you're measuring and probably cutting and everything. This one I got, but it doesn't really work that well, so I'm kind of disappointed about that. But it is an option if you want to put it on your ruler. So I have these two. I also have, I think this is like a 6-inch ruler, because especially if you're doing children's clothes or onesies or whatever, it helps if you have a really smaller ruler. And dropped that, didn't I? The other one that I have, and this came with a kit, so I didn't deliberately go to pick this one out, but it came with my cutting wheel and with a different cutting mat that I still have. It's smaller than the one I have on this table, but it was a set. So this came with it, which I do use because it's extremely useful. This is, it measures 24 inches. So it's like a double 12-inch here. And then this one measures 18 inches, so it works well too. So I have the 3 rulers, and also, if all else fails, most people do have at least one cloth or vinyl measuring tape. This works just as good. So if you have this already in your arsenal, then you're good to go to get started until you can buy some rulers if you choose to do so. The main thing to remember is that you do need something to measure with. So those are the things that are essential. So the other thing, oh, let me tell you about these little nippers here. I saw this on, I believe it was All Brand or All Stitch, and I saw the picture, and they were talking about how wonderful these snippers are, and they're the best thing since sliced bread. You really need these snippers. 15 bucks. The picture lied. I was thinking it was going to be a regular size snipper, like these. When I got it, it was these little bitty tiny things right here, and I have used them. I'm not in love with it. My biggest fear is I'm going to lose it because it's so small. But apparently people think they're really, really good, and maybe for me, they weren't what I was looking for. They are usable, but I'm not recommending these at all, but it is your choice. No one can function doing any kind of sewing and embroidery or anything like that without a good seam ripper. We all have to have them. It's useful, again, doing my sewing with the mask. I've used this one to death, and I like this particular one because it has the rubber end, and the purpose of that is to rub. Once you cut the stitches, you can use the rubber end to pull the stitches out. So that helps. You don't have to necessarily have to have tweezers to do that. That comes with this. But speaking of tweezers, I never leave home without one. I lost a pair and I panicked because I love these. And so when I ordered more, I got 2 of them, and I still have 2 because I didn't lose them again. These come with a hole on the end, and I have seen a video where there are some people that actually have a chain that they wear kind of long because they're using it, and they have their snippers on their chain, they have their tweezer on their chain, and they may even have a seam ripper. I'm not sure, but I know for sure they have snippers and they have their tweezers on a chain because they're constantly using them all the time, and you don't have to worry about them dropping or rolling somewhere and they get lost, because that does happen. So that's just a thought. This is just another type of seam ripper that I tried. It has a light. I don't know if you can see the light, but for those of us, and it's a magnifying glass. A magnifying glass with a light on it that will help assist you to accurately cut your little threads that you need to cut, especially if you're doing jump stitches, because some of them can be a little tricky to get to and you can't see it, and you don't want to rip anything or take out the wrong thread. So this is an option to use. I got this out of Joann, but I think I've also seen them in Walmart, and most of these things, well, I won't say most, but quite a few things are in Walmart. You can always get snippers. You can get these. You can get these, and you definitely can get these, and you can definitely get tweezers. And of course you can get scissors. So Walmart is a place that you can use to go to get some of these items. You can always find things on Amazon, which is sort of my go-to places, especially since the pandemic, and I don't really go out that much to shop. So I'll look for what I need on Amazon, and there I go. But most of these things I got before the pandemic, so I got lucky. I was actually able to do hands-on to get them. The other thing that I really like, I'm old school, so I'm used to the regular pin cushions, the red ball that everybody put their pins and needles in, and you just pull from them. But they have these really neat magnetic pin things. Not a pin cushion exactly, but it's a magnetic pin holder. And as you can see, I do have quite a few pins on it, and they don't spill unless it's just long like this. That does sometimes, but the majority of the time they don't spill. The regular pins don't spill out. So this is pretty handy, and I use mine and I really love it. What else? Speaking of hooping, I wanted to just show you this. When you are hooping, my least favorite thing to do, I actually took some pictures of me hooping the other day where both of my knuckles on both of my hands were bleeding actually from hooping, because I kept hitting the little screw on the end with my little screwdriver that I was using to tighten and loosen my screw here. It was driving me crazy. It took me forever to hoop this shirt, which did make sense. But I couldn't get my Mighty Hoop to work on my 10-needle machine at that particular time. I think I was just tired and frustrated because I took a break which I recommend you do when you're doing something and it's wearing you out. Take a break away from it. I was hungry, I was tired, I had a headache, I took a break, I ate, came back, bam, I hooped it, stitched it out, no problem. So, user's error, I'm assuming, and frustrated. But what I wanted to point out was the screw. If you're like most people, it can be a challenge. But simple pencil eraser, I have found, fits the screw, and you can pretty well loosen it and tighten it without having a lot of difficulty if you put this rubber eraser on the end. So that's just a little tip in case you were interested in it. They do have some rubber tips that you can buy that cost way more than a package of these. I found out because I did buy them. I don't recommend them because the ones that I got actually were so tight I could barely get it on the screw, and they were ripping apart, and they weren't inexpensive for what it was worth. I think I got a package of 6 or 7 for $8 or something, so I thought that was a little expensive considering the fact they didn't work well. The other thing I want to mention is a good cutting board. As you can see, all of my things are on my cutting board here. And I want a bigger one because I want one that covers my entire table. And what I've done to substitute or hopefully prevent me ruining my dining room table is the paper one, the cardboard one that I got from Walmart. That very inexpensive, and I have this down first, and it has the grids on it, so if you sew or you need to measure or whatever, this is a good thing to put on your table. They do have plastic ones that are pretty good too. They cost a lot of money, more than what I wanted to spend, but anyway, to protect your tables or whatever you have, that's a good option. And then I have my larger cutting board, self-healing cutting board that you need to have if you're using this. You must have a self-healing cutting board because you will ruin your tabletops or whatever you're using if you don't. So I have this one, I have another one. This one is like 36 by 24, I think. And the other one I think is like 12 by 18. And the last one, or the third one that I have, I saw this on a video and I thought it was pretty cool. It is like a Lazy Susan type. It rotates. So if you're sewing, or not sewing, if you're cutting and you need to make your angles, being left-handed like I am, I kind of do things backwards, so I have to turn it. This works really well because you don't move the fabric, you move the cutting board, and the cutting board moves the fabric for you. So that's a good help. So I just wanted to point that out as a tip. What else do I want to tell you a little bit about a tip for the mighty hoops. I know I'm going over a lot of different things, but I want to kind of give you a little hint here, hint there, the things that I use that could possibly be useful in your studio. When you're using the mighty hoops, if you do, when you're putting them up, if you cross them like this, then it makes it easy to take them apart because of the magnet being so strong. If you just close it up regular, you really have to pry them apart. But if you put them up kind of crossed like this, then they are easier to come apart. So it saves you time, saves your fingers, and it just makes it a little bit easier for you. I mentioned adhesive in another video, and I didn't tell you the one that I use is 505 Temporary Adhesive, and it's for fabrics only, and it is temporary. It does work really well. I like it, but just keep in mind because it is a spray adhesive, they do recommend that you spray like in a paper bag or a box or something for the fumes to protect yourself, or even a mask. And the other thing is, do not overuse it or spray very lightly, because you don't want to gum your needle up when you're embroidering. So, but it is really useful, especially for me. What I have used it the most for has been for my masks, because I usually cut them out and put it on a stabilizer and put it in my 5x5 mighty hoop. So therefore it really isn't being held down, but I spray it to hold it down, and I'm able to stitch on it very well, and I don't have any problems at all with my design because of that. So I use the spray adhesive. And there are other brands that you certainly can use, and I don't know exactly what the price or cost is comparative to the 505, but because that's the only one that I use, and I like it, and it works really well. So moving on, what other tips can I tell you about? Oh, these are little what's the best word for this? When you have the smaller rolls, the 1100 millimeter embroidery thread rolls, not the big cones, but the smaller cones, these fit around really good thread holders, I guess is what they're best called. It's called spool savers, and it just holds the thread, so it's not stringing everywhere. So this is just something that you can use, and this package comes with what they call a magnet holder. If you are not magnet holder, I'm sorry, bobbin holder. You can put your bobbin in here, and this part here goes in the top of the thread, especially if you're using bobbins the same color as the thread, so you can keep them together. So this was a gift that was given to me, and I do use it, so very appreciative of it. The other thing, I got these out of Michael's. These are the little, just little whatnot cups that you can just stick things in. I keep my scissors in them so I don't clutter up my desk, my sewing table basically. I keep all of that in one of these. I also use them to keep my USBs in. Yeah, I have a ton of them, but this is what I do. I use it for that, so it works really well. And the other thing, important, I got these off of Amazon. These work for anything that you're doing that you have to put together and you don't really want to use pins, because you have to be careful when you're stitching that you don't break your needles. You can use this on your embroidery machine to pin down your applique, or I have used it with pinning down the fabric when I cut out my mask sometimes if it's not holding too well, because I don't like using a lot of spray. But you have to be very careful that wherever you place them, that you're not going to hit the needle, especially if you're doing it on a multi-needle machine. You don't want that to happen, so be very careful if you are using pins. Now, if you're working on your sewing machine or your single needle embroidery machine, then these clips work. I use these all the time when I'm cutting out my mask or cutting out my applique fabric or anything that I need to group together. I'll use these pins, and I got them off of Amazon, very inexpensive. I think it's like 144, 150 pieces in here, and it probably didn't cost me over 10 bucks. You can get the fancy dancy ones out of Joann that maybe you get 5 or up to 10, and I mean, they're expensive. They're $10, $16. It's ridiculous. Some of them are big, but it's ridiculous. So if you're going to get any of those type of things out of Joann, make sure you get a coupon or they're on sale. Don't spend the full amount for it, because they're very expensive. Another thing that is extremely useful. Now this is called your Birdnest Tool, and it's a set. You do need to have a tool. You don't have to have this particular set because it's around $30 some odd. You can use an X-Acto knife, if it's long enough, and you can use a long tweezer if you can find that. But what this does, this is, when you have a bird nest, if you've never had one, usually it's caused by the fact that your bobbin thread probably isn't thread, or your top thread could not be threaded correctly. It's not threaded correctly, or your bobbin casing needs cleaning, or the needle is broken or not sharp enough, or something along that line, and it causes an accumulation of thread to bound together, and just makes a big web of thread, a big bold knot of thread. Now your fabric, everything is just caught, and you can't move, it won't stitch, you can't get it out, you're just stuck and you're looking at it, what the heck do I do? Well, this comes to your rescue, but you have to be very careful with it. For one thing, it's very sharp, so when you're taking it and putting it in it, on and off, be very careful. But because of the length of it, I've used this with my single needle machine as well as my multi-needle machine. You can actually get between the arm of the bobbin, if it's your multi-needle machine, or underneath the presser foot, but underneath the fabric where the thread and the bobbin thread are touching, and you can go in there and cut it out. So that's the purpose of having this knife thing here. And I like it because it's long and I can use it. And then you have, what comes with this is the hook. Now, once you cut it, sometimes you still need to get up in there and pull all of that thread that has accumulated and looks like a bird's nest and pull it out. And this works wonder. So if you ever end up with a bird's nest, you're going to want something. This is what I purchased. Again, there are options that are less expensive. You can get like a little saw-like apparatus from Harbor Freight, and then they have like a set of brushes that work really well that'll get in there. And I know those work pretty good on your single needle machine. I have not used them. I do have the little knife, but I haven't used them. I couldn't find the brush. I know it was recommended, and I went to Harbor Freight, and I just could not find the brush that was recommended. But I already had these anyway, so I'm okay. But I just wanted to give you a heads up on that, just in case you don't want to spend the 40 bucks for this. Then that is your option where you can get that. But I love my little kit, and I know you need something for getting rid of your bird's nest. So think about that. Another thing, this was a gift to me, and I love it. If you're half blind like me, and especially when you're trying to thread a needle, actually on my other machine I had to physically put the thread through the eye of the needle on my 10 needle machine. So that's 10 needles that I have to manually thread. The machine that I currently have now has automatic threading. Thank goodness I don't have to do that. But these work. These magnifying glass, and you have a light. It reminds me kind of the lights that's on a miner's helmet, but I can actually wear these over my glasses, and if I position it just so, I can actually see what it is that I'm looking for, and it works really well. So this is just a suggestion. I think the person that purchased this for me got it off Amazon, I believe. Don't know the name of it. I have a box. I'll probably get the box out and tell you guys exactly the name of it the next time we do a video. But I wanted to point that out because I know it's a really useful little notion. The other thing that I got that was a gift to me was this wonderful miniature set of screwdrivers and different mechanical things. See, I'm not a mechanical person, so I don't really know the next. They're bits, that's what they're called. The bits that actually go into the little handle. and they come in various sizes, and it worked wonders for me because I needed it when, or I still need it, when I have to take the plate off of my bobbin arm. The screwdrivers that came with my other machine I wasn't able to manipulate it as well. So this worked, and I also have another one that I forgot to show you about, and I will show you that one on the next. I think it's called an offset screwdriver. So if any of you guys or girls know what that is, or your husband, significant other, or whatever, because I didn't know the proper name, but I think it's called an offset screwdriver. That works really well as well, because that space in between the pentagram and the arm is not high enough to actually use a regular screwdriver. So you need something that is low, but it also screws. So that's why I got that, and it works really well. Another thing that works well is a pair of locking pliers, I guess is the best word I can come up with. But this is what I use to change my needles, because it grabs the needle and it locks. So your needle's not going to fall out. So you can manipulate it, you can turn it, you can set it straight, you can do whatever you want with it. And then when you get it the way you want it, then you unhook it. And they did have rubber tips on it, but they broke and they came off. But anyway, these work well. I recommend that you get a pair, especially if you have a 10 needle machine, because it is a lifesaver. If you have those round ones, my brother, 10 needle, thank goodness, has the flat back just like my single needle. But I did have a machine that was round, and many of your industrial or commercial embroidery multi-needle machines have used the round needles, and they have a front and a back, and you have to make sure that it is put in correctly. If you have the flat back, it's going to go in correctly because there's only one way to get it in there. But if you have the round ones, you really need to see it. That's one of the reasons why I got the magnifying glass, because I need to see that. And then this works wonder as a pair. You will not regret it. Needles. I told you you're going to need a bunch of needles. So get your supply of needles. Don't be stingy with that. You're going to need a lot of needles when you're embroidering, because needles get dull, needles break, and you need to change them every so often to make sure your stitching is going to look pretty. One more thing that I want to show you, and that is my bobbins. Now these are the magnetic core bobbins. These, I think it was $144 in here. Cost $30-some odd, I think, and they come in here just loosely. But one side is magnetic that you stick to your bobbin case, and you put it into the bobbin arm, and it was recommended because it helps with the tension, because it's going to pull evenly. So this can help you tremendously to make sure that you have the right tension in your bobbin, so you're going to get a good stitch out. And I didn't know until recently that not only can you get them in a case of white, you can also get them in a case of black. So that does help. You can get black and you can get white. And I'm not used to black ones, but I'm not expecting any problem because it's the exact same type. They're Fill-Tech magnetic core bobbins, black or white, and it is for my multi-needle machine. It is it's an L class. It's called Magnaglide Pre-Wound L Bobbin Black is the color, and it's 100 count, so it's 100 to a box. I also found out, didn't know, got these from Amazon, that you can also get assorted color L bobbins for your multi-needle. These will not fit in my single needle machine, but they will fit in my multi-needle machine, and I haven't used them yet, so hopefully they stitch well. But I'm a happy camper because I don't wound bobbins very well. I've tried several times and they don't work well for me. They don't wound evenly, and if they don't, they're not going to stitch correctly. So I love my pre-wound bobbins, so I'm hoping these are going to work well for me, and I'll be happy with them. So that's pretty much all I wanted to point out. A couple of things. This is a it's Craftsman. This is magnetic, so perfect for picking up screws that you drop. Anything that is metal. So if you drop a screw, that's pretty much what it's for, and it's pretty strong, so you can pick up. If you excuse me, rolling around somewhere and you can't get it, it's in a little place somewhere where you can't get it. If you kind of stick this in there, you're going to pull it out. And again, if you drop it somewhere underneath something, you can kind of stick this under there and get it. So I love this. It was a gift as well. So I do have people that love me, that give me very useful gifts, and I love that. And the last thing that I do want to mention is more on the specific of embroidery, and mostly for appliques. I use a lot of the fat quarters. In Walmart, you can get plain fat quarters for 97 cents. And these measure 18 inches by 21 inches. They're 100% cotton. They come in various colors. They're Waverly, which is a really good brand. And like I said, the solid ones are 97 cents. The printed ones, I think, are $1.47. And I think the licensed ones, like Disney characters or Star Wars or something like that, Marvel, I think they run $1.99. But that eliminates having to go and have fabric cut, which saves you time, especially if you don't need a whole lot of yardage. And I have found these have worked miracles for me, especially doing my mask, but also doing appliques. Also, I do know that it is big enough where you want to do bibs and things, baby bibs and stuff, and you want to use different colors, and some of the prints are really pretty, and they have really pretty prints that work well for baby bibs and what have you. So I just wanted to point that out and just give you a little tip on that. So that's pretty much all I have today. I guess that's enough. Got these sitting here, just thought about it. When you have your rolls, a lot of people are wondering how to keep them together. I just simply use a rubber band. I've heard people get the little hair twisty things and various items, but I got a big bag of rubber bands, cheap out of Sam, and I just use rubber bands on mine, and I don't have any issues with them. They work well, they do the job, they keep them together, and they stretch big enough to go over my big ones. So I'm pretty happy with the fact that I have the rubber bands. So that's about it for today. I hope that you found that this was useful. If it is, please hit the like button below. Don't forget to subscribe. Please come back for my next video and share. Tell all your friends to stop by, and I will see you on the next video. Have a great day.